Me and my wife, we're truly blessed to have each other and our beautiful home that many would call a filthy place. I can't blame people as they would naturally associate a sewer with a dirty place. But not our sewer. Sarah and I live in a clean gutter with all the necessary amenities of life. We love our sewer, and we call it home. My name is Bradshaw. I'm a 58-year-old man living with my wife Sarah in a sewer and have been for the past 22 years. I met her when I was 36. Those were dark times in our lives. But in those bad times, we found each other, and we helped each other to the life that we're now living, and yes, living inside a sewer. I won't go back to my life before I met Sarah. It was a life full of regrets and bad choices. Let's conclude that the time that I was 22, I was living on the street, had no family to go back to, and I was an addict. What I did in my life, it led me to the sad state that I was in at 22 years of age. At that time, I had no life goals, no ambitions. I used to walk around with a signboard that begged people to spare some change for the homeless man. If people gave me food, I used to eat it. If I got no food, I used to collect trash and take out what I could eat from the junk piles. There were small suppliers on the street selling drugs to people like me, so what little money I did make from begging, I used it to get drugs. I could often be found lying near trash bins on the pavement, drunk or drugged out of my mind. I didn't know night from day. I was only 22 years old, but I was sure I was going to die. That is, until I met Sarah. Our first interaction wasn't that good, I'll give you that. Like me, Sarah was also a homeless addict. She was begging on the street for money just like I was. She was on my turf. So the first time I met her, I screamed at her to get out of my area. I scared her off, so I didn't spot her for a couple of days after that. But then she was back on my street, begging again. The chase went down a couple of times. I was running her out from my side of the road. She was still there after a few days. Well, I wasn't in a state of mind to follow something that long, so I lost interest. I didn't care anymore if we shared the same road begging, or we were looking in the trash searching for food, in the same trash bins. Slowly, we did start to talk a bit, and her story was very similar to mine. Like me, she'd made some bad choices in her life, and she had nobody left to call a family. She had zero support and was on the verge of giving up on her life. She grew up in an abusive family, and her life before she fled her home was even worse. It was a nightmare. Her family forced her to traffic narcotics. When she was 20 years old, Sarah was already a lost person. Like me, living on trash and drugs. But our meeting, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It was a reunion of two hurt and broken hearts coming together. It proves love really does know no bounds. At the stage of life where we'd given up hope, we ended up finding a future together. We became a couple who were inseparable. Of course, the begging was still there, and so was the drug addiction, but, well, that started to change. I mean, when you love somebody, you feel for them more than you feel for yourself. So while I had no qualms about myself getting drugged up and broken, it actually bothered me to see Sarah miserable and in addiction. And likewise, Sarah wasn't happy to see my life in ruins. We indeed were not concerned about our individual lives anymore, but as a couple we wanted each other to be happy. It wasn't easy to turn the tables on a bad life. Our lives were in ruins. We were both addicts, we were homeless, living on the street. But Sarah didn't want me to be miserable, and I wanted nothing more but to give Sarah a peaceful life. So together, even though we struggled, we worked to get out. The initial days were rough. There were such bad times that most people would have left each other, but we showed how deeply we were in love by sticking it out. Leaving an addiction, that wasn't easy, and Sarah and I both had to go through tough times to fight those cravings. There were times we held each other, shivering, on the verge of relapse and going back to drugs. We fought together, and in a few months we had our first victory. we were clean. We defeated our drug cravings. Our love won. Well, after kicking our addiction, our next step was to start a decent life together. Begging was the next thing we wanted to get away from. But even that proved to be a real challenge. We were both frail, still sick from years of drug abuse, and neither of us had a decent background for jobs. I mean, who's going to hire us? But we continued to try our luck. Of course, we weren't applying for desk jobs. No one would be willing to take us as cleaners either. It was another rough phase of our lives, but then all the hard work finally paid off. A gas station eventually hired me for minimum wage, where I had to clean the gas area all day long. That was hard work, especially in the winter. But I went from begging to working, and I was finally happy with my life. Sarah, on the other hand, got a job as a waitress at a local cafe. She had to work as a waitress to clean the dishes and wash the floor. Was that exploitation? Well, we didn't see it like that. We saw it as an opportunity to change our lives. We got rid of our addiction, and now we didn't have to beg anymore. We had jobs. So we only had one more problem to tackle: where to live. I mean, we were sleeping on pavement. Of course, with no credit history, no one to speak for us, and, well, not really all that much money, it was out of the question to find an apartment or a house to even rent, much less buy. It was Sarah who first came up with this idea. We were both well aware of our situation, and we knew our alleys as well. And I thought about her plan. With no other options, we decided to go with Sarah's idea. She told me we could start living in a sewer. Now, to be honest, in our condition the idea did make perfect sense. I knew an abandoned dry sewer. It was far from an ideal homestead, but we moved in. It's been 22 years now living in that gutter. We're living in that same sewer happily, though. The time we moved into the sewer, that first couple of weeks, all we did was rigorous cleaning. Both of us conquered the place with our mutual love and dedication. We cleaned the gutter thoroughly and got our first used mattress. And that was the start. And while it did feel a bit awkward at the beginning, I mean, living in a sewer on purpose, well, we started to enjoy being together there. We actually called it home. It was actually a perfect place for us. It was a quiet location. We had each other to give company to each other and love each other, and we never had the luxury that many people crave for. We were building a beautiful experience for ourselves, though. It was a matter of time, and we turned the sewer into a small and comfortable place to live and be at peace. In a few years, our little home inside that gutter, it got many things. We set up a small area for a kitchen. We made small arrangements for heat and electricity. We even got ourselves a TV. As ordinary people, we started to love life and celebrate our holidays. We decorated our sewer for Christmas and Halloween. We started having some great memories. It's been our life since, too. We've been living in a sewer now for 22 years. Yeah, there came opportunities for us to move to a small apartment, but just like we fell in love with each other, we fell in love with our home. So we chose to stay in our home, the sewer. It was like a testament of how love helped us to survive and live a happy life. We both were on the verge of giving up our lives because of addiction, but then we found each other and found a reason to live. We're happy to live our lives now in that sewer. It's better than any home we can even imagine. The times have been crazy for us as people start to learn about our lives. They were shocked to learn that we were living in the sewer, and then shocked even more to find out we'd been doing it for 22 years. Our story got into the newspapers, on the internet, and even on TV news. They wanted to come out and speak to us on camera. But no, we wanted our privacy. And we also turned down offers of money to give exclusive stories of our lives. For us, it was never about the money. It was a story of love, conquering all hardships. And today we're actually glad that our story is inspiring many to value life and love. We're still living in the sewer, and we're happy and content about it. To watch more animated story videos like this, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments section what you thought about this story.